Hey, what's up, people? Welcome back to another video. I want to talk about the whole idea of, the whole age gap stuff when it comes to people who are, in a relationship, but they're on two different ends of the spectrum when it comes to their age. Meaning, like, you have a significant gap, or just even just a general gap, like a 10 years or something like that. I think where it starts to get weird is when you have somebody who's old enough to be your dad or your grandpa checking for you. I think that's when it begins to get weird when it comes to the whole age gap stuff. With women, truth be told, there's not that much scrutiny when it comes to the whole age gap thing as it pertains to them. Maybe from other women, what I'm saying, who don't want their son dealing with somebody who's a quote unquote cougar. But truth be told, you know, it definitely is a side eye thing when it comes to men moving like that. And the thing is, I understand where that sentiment comes from, you know, because it's like this person is not even from your generation, dude. Why are you sitting up here trying to connect with somebody who is massively younger than you? I mean, think about it like this, when it comes to these celebrities and their age gap stuff. Um, Picture somebody who is 40 dealing with somebody who's 20. It's like when you were 20, they weren't even born. You know what I'm saying? Or, when you were, um, let's say 25, they were five. So it does begin to get real weird when it comes to that type of stuff, when there's a massive age gap. But I think for a lot of people, truth be told, is that you begin to accept the narratives that adults are adults. I think where it starts to get very nefarious is when you have people who are much older trying to connect with somebody who's like at the 18, level. Because that's like grooming type stuff when you're trying to connect with somebody who's that young. Like it comes across as that because you dang sure knew them before they turned 18. You know what I'm saying? Like you didn't just become aware of them when they turned 18. Or there might be a situation to where, they're 18, you're trying to coerce them to deal your direction, trying to pick them up with material or resources. Like you're trying to get them to look your way, and you're much older, or you're older. Like let's say you're 30, or you're like I was gonna say like 25, but 25 is almost like in the around the same ballpark. But it's like, yeah, like it's a weird kind of thing. And the thing is, when it comes to dealing with somebody younger and you're older, you know, the thing is that as you get older, what's attractive remains the same, meaning that basically women in their 20s. Me personally, I think the best type of woman is in her 30s. To me, that's just perfect balance. Um, and the thing is that, you know, what's been hailed as attractive still remains attractive. Namely, I'm saying, women who are in their 20s. Like that 20 stretch is basically, the stretch for when a woman, I would say, the society would say, is at her peak when it comes to desirability. And that's what people look out for despite how old they get. I mean, like I said, you see this kind of stuff when it comes to celebrities, them dealing with somebody who is in that 20 style bracket, or, what I'm saying, if they were younger, they would be in that 20 style bracket. I mean, if the celebrity was younger, then the person who they would go for would be in their 20s. So it's like, I mean, what can you say, man? Because I'm not trying to sound weird or like a creep or sound off, but it's like it doesn't come from a sentiment of trying to deal with kids. Like that's not where it comes from. It comes from a sentiment of trying to deal with somebody who is desirable. And, it's not it's not rooted in anything that's like pedo type stuff. Um, I've seen some people try to rationalize and, oh, it's like dealing with a kid. No, because kids are dependents. Understand that. Kids are basically, what I'm saying, they can't look after themselves. They don't make sound decisions. They can't live on their own. They're very much so driven by their impulses. And you can't just sit up there and say that's the same thing as dealing with a kid. Like you're not gonna make a 25-year-old into a kid. Like that's not happening. You're not gonna make somebody who's 30 a kid. That's not happening. Now, usually the people who have an issue with, age gap relationships are either, and I'm talking about ones that are, understandable. Understandable meaning that, you're dealing with two adults. I'm not talking like the age 18 or whatever. I mean, it's whatever. But basically, the main people who have issues with that are like people who are, broke guys or unattractive women by society standards. And the reason why I say that is that it seems to stem more from jealousy than it does from some kind of moral outrage. You know what I'm saying? Like that's where the attitude seems to arise from. Like you're mad that you can't participate in such an activity because, nobody's checking for you, which is a very real thing, man. I mean, let's be perfectly clear. A lot of people's attitude does boil down to jealousy, that Cain style jealousy, to where since you can't engage in that kind of behavior, all of a sudden you want to develop a rule book when it comes to those who do. This is unacceptable and how could you? And, you're old enough to be their father. And I'm talking about people in their 20s. I'm not talking about somebody who's like, you just turned 18. Like, feel where I'm coming from. I'm talking about where there's a significant age gap and the woman's in her 20s. Like that's the bracket that I'm trying to deal from. Yeah, people feel some type of way about that. Because, and I would say it really does stem from jealousy. It really does stem from people not being able to live that kind of a lifestyle. So they feel unhappy when they see other people live that kind of a lifestyle. Like it does stem from jealousy. I will say that. And I have nothing to say when it comes to all that stuff because I'm not trying to be a hypocrite. Look, I want to deal with somebody who is younger. I'm not talking about like, teenage younger. I'm talking about younger than me. I think most men generally do, unless you like to deal with women who are older. And if that's what you like, then hey man, God bless you. Everybody needs love. But as for me, I'm trying to deal with somebody who very much so is younger than me. And that's just where I'm at with it. So that's all I have to say when it comes to this.